right. Halter and Taj want to go ahead of us?
This next tape you're going to watch again goes on with some more basics. Once you've covered the halter rope work and you've got some things working for you with your horse and a little communication started, there's some proper ways of getting on and off and getting yourself prepared to ride your horse. There's some things that can be very dangerous if you don't know better, and this tape will point out some things that maybe you've missed or haven't thought of, and hopefully you won't have to get in a wreck to learn them. Maybe you can learn some things from watching this tape and progress your horsemanship as you go. Enjoy it.
I'm going to show you an exercise that you can do in your groundwork. Remember when you do this, not to let the horse's head turn away from you until you have the line going around the hindquarters. She may need to walk around a little bit, and you might not want to do this without some supervision. But it's an important thing for you to understand, because what's really happening here is a lot more than meets the eye. We're asking her to leave to the right with me in her left eye, and as she comes around, she's going to see me out of her right eye, and it's that place behind her. It's that place behind her right there where she changes eyes that many horses get troubled and get tight. We'll try that once more, okay? This is a very important thing to understand, and if you don't get it done in your groundwork with a rope and halter, you can also do it in a round pen by sending a horse away from you. But if you don't get this taken care of in your groundwork, and you go to get on your horse and just swing a leg over, they may see you for the first time come over them on the right side with your leg and catch you out of this right eye and be so surprised and so shocked that they need to buck or run or jump around, and you might fall off in the process. So you want to have the horse comfortable seeing you on both sides. I'm going to start with her head tipped toward me, and then I'm going to release her head and hold this line and let her find her way out of it, and that's where she changes the eye and puts the slack up the line to face me again.
Hi, my name is Angela, and I'm going to be showing you how to put a saddle up on a horse, but instead of putting it up on a horse, we're going to be practicing on a rail, and we do this because we want practice so we don't hit the horse in the ribs with the stirrups or make the horse feel uneasy. You would want to put your left hand below the horn, right next to the stirrup leather, and your right hand on the cantle. You would pivot on the leg nearest the horse and push the saddle up and on the horse and land it softly. And it would look like this. Okay?
Now when putting these pads up, you stand up towards the shoulder here. And just like when throwing your saddle up, you're going to pivot it on up, kind of swinging it over. Now, I'll show you how that's done. That is by placing your left hand up at the point of the shoulder right about here, swinging it over with the right. Now that you have your pad up here, it might be too far back or it might be too far forward. I want my pad to go up forward a little more, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring it up her neck a little ways, slide it back down with the grain of the hair. You can, so not to wrinkle the hair up underneath the pad and cause any kind of discomfort. You might have to do that a few times so you get just perfect. Now this is a Western saddle that'll be put in on my mare here, and it is a heavy saddle, and the way I'm going to put it on is probably a way most people would find rather difficult, but if done properly you'll find it kind of easy. What I'm going to do is place my left hand right underneath the swell, my right hand on the off side of my cantle. And then I'm going to place my left foot lined up about with my horse's front feet here, like so. And I'm going to pivot on this foot and swing the saddle up nice and smoothly, so not to bang into my horse's side or get the stirrups or any other piece of equipment caught underneath the horse, caught underneath the saddle. This goes as follows. Now you can see some strings and other items all balled up. So right away, we're going to get that all organized. Just pull everything down where it's supposed to be. Get this organized here, all these cinches. Now we're ready to actually put the girths on. Here we're going to take down our cinches with the cinch keeper. By doing so, just like a belt, you kind of pull up, that pin pull up on the cinch keeper, the pin falls out, you let these cinches drop gently towards the sides of your horse. The point I want to make is that you should not leave your horse's saddle unfastened for too long. If you do so, you risk the danger of having that saddle fall while your horse moves around when tied, and when that happens, your horse can get scared, pull back, and then you can have a serious mess there. Now I'm going to lift this stirrup up, hook it on over onto the horn here. Now I'm going to take down my latigo, and now I'm going to reach for my cinch, but the way I'm going to do it, so not to get close to those hind feet in case this horse were to kick out at me, I'm going to keep my eye on those feet, reach under with my left hand, bring that up nice and easy. I'm going to feed my latigo down through the cinch, up to the rigging, back down through the cinch one more time. I'm going to make it just a little snug, checking to make sure I don't have little rings, D-rings underneath that cinch. I'm just going to snug it up a little bit, nice and slowly. Pat on your horse at this time, so just to reassure them that they're all right. Put the pin in a hole, tighten that up by pulling on this. And right now, since it's not tightened all the way, my latigo is too short to reach the latigo holder, so I'll just let it hang at this moment, at this time. Now, just as I reach for the cinch, I'm going to do the same to get my rear cinch. I fasten this up just a little bit, not too snug, but just enough so that this saddle doesn't pop up if I were to be roping or doing anything else. I always want to make sure this piece right here is intact. If not, this rear cinch can get back down here. If your horse would fall or anything else, you can get a hind foot placed underneath or in between your horse's stomach and the rear cinch there. Now, take this down. And reminder, always be careful. Make sure that this stirrup's going to stay up there. Because if you have a big stirrup like this, hung up on your horn and it falls over while you're working down here, you get hit in the head, that could hurt. I'm going to reach around the front for my breast collar. I have little snaps here and a D-ring to make attaching this much easier. Just like so, no problem. And this strap goes right in between your horse's front legs. My right hand comes here to help find where that D-ring is, and snap that up just like that. Birch, before doing any groundwork or anything, you want to make sure your cinch is done up tight enough so that the saddle and pads don't start sliding around, okay?
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and fix these pads and saddle. Make sure everything's even and tidy. What we're going to do to fix it, we need to bring the pads over here a little more. So we're going to lift the whole works up. And as we lift up, fix the saddle, fix the pads. We're ready to cinch up. Be sure to bring the stirrup up over the horn, like so. We're going to use our left hand, positioning ourselves up along with the shoulder. We use our left hand to reach under to get the cinch. The latigo goes through the cinch, back up and down through the saddle here, up down through the cinch again, and then up through the saddle, but then you come across itself, back up through the saddle again, down through itself. Now that's not tight enough, as you can see, but I wanted you to see how that knot went. To tighten it up, you grab the piece here, and then this piece running between your saddle and cinch. Just one strip. And you pull up here, and then you pull the slack out with this hand. And it just goes like that. Right, you make sure that you don't tighten it so that your hands do not get stuck in here, because that gets yourself in a position in a bind so that if your horse takes off, you're stuck right with them. Now, Birch, I want you to walk your horse out and tighten that girth up if needed. Okay? This is important because when your horse moves out, he'll let his breath out, and you'll notice that cinch becomes looser as he lets the air from his stomach out. Now it's important not to do that cinch up too fast, because you can cause aggravation in your horse. Just like someone cranking a belt on you real tight, real fast. It's a little aggravating, so you be sure to make it just as comfortable as you can for your horse. Okay, Birch, be sure not to lose the attention of your horse, okay?
Okay.
Make sure he doesn't look off over there, because what happens if Birch's horse looks over there, the next move would be for his feet to go off that direction, and with Birch standing where he was, that hind end is then in Birch's face.
This is Callie. Her mom was a polo pony and her father was a thoroughbred racehorse. And I'm going to be tacking her up today for you. Watch. When you put a pad on a horse, they always have certain padding. You always check inside. This pad cannot be shaken out. So you always check to see if there's any leaves or anything that could make her uncomfortable. You'd swing it up on her back and push it backwards so all the hair goes the same way. Just like we're putting on a saddle, you would pivot with the foot closest near the horse and just swing it up. And make sure the pads are even. Good girl. You always check both sides to make sure that they're both even. You always check the other side to make sure all the leathers are out from under the saddle. And you always put the girth on the right side and with the leather and not the elastic. Put the leather on first. These are the billet straps, and there is an extra one just in case one breaks. And put them through girth buckles. Now we're going to go to the other side. Before you reach under to get the other side of the girth, you want to face back so you're facing towards the back of the horse. And you want the horse to know you're there. So you're going to feel under, and you want to take it with your left hand instead of your right, because you can easily get under like this, and right here you're caught because your whole body is twisted. So you want to feel under, let her know you're there, good girl, and take it under really gently. When you're putting the girth up, you want to make sure that the horse is very comfortable so he doesn't have any bad feelings about the saddle or us. You can tell if your horse isn't comfortable by his ears, if they're going back, or if he's moving around, or if his tail is swishing a lot. Okay. The stirrups are usually up, so you want to run them down. You can lengthen or shorten the stirrup by running it up or down, the buckle up or down. And to make sure you have the stirrup secured tightly enough, when you pull on the back stirrup leather, you'll hear a click. If you're tying your horse up or lunging him, you don't want the stirrups to be flopping near his side to give the horse a wrong idea. So you would tie the stirrups up.
This is a Western bridle. The parts of this bridle goes as follows. This is the head stall. This is the brow band. This piece here is the throat latch. These are the cheek pieces. This is the bit. This here is the chin strap. These are slobber straps here. This is the Mecate, which acts as the lead. And these are the two reins. Okay. I'm going to start out when bridling, bring my horse's head to me. I'm going to get her muzzle in between the two cheek pieces, like so. Now I have her here. I can bring her head further over I can let her have her head back a little bit, but I have control now. Now I'm going to hold the bit before placing it inside her mouth by cradling it in my fingers. Now my middle finger holds the bit out. My index finger is here just to help support that bit stay straight. And my thumb comes through the bit here just to work the corner of my horse's mouth to open it up so I can slip the bit in. Now I'm going to bring my horse's head to me, get her muzzle in between the two cheek pieces here, and slide this bit up underneath her chin for now. Now I'm going to get the bit in that cradle position. I'm going to work the corner of her mouth with my thumb, like so. She opens up. Now I pull the bit up with my right hand. I don't cram the bit in. I simply pull it up, being sure not to hit any teeth to cause any kind of discomfort. We try to make everything just as comfortable as can be for the horse, so the horse doesn't get sour to what we're asking for. Notice I don't have any strips of leather running across my horse's eye at any time. I always try to avoid that, just to make it easier on your horse. Now I'm going to fold the horse's ear forward through the headstall like so. I'm going to pull the cheek piece out and around her eye, pulling that ear forward through the headstall. Now we're ready to do the throat latch up. Throat latch shouldn't be too tight, but it should be snug so that your headstall doesn't come up over your horse's ears. And at this point, I can take this halter down. I no longer have any need for the halter, so I'll just place it over to the side. I'll bring my horse's head towards me. Slip these reins up over her head. Just like that. Now for safety reasons, I'll loop my reins over the horn. That way, she can't put her head down and get these reins up on her, over her ears and step through it and injure and harm herself in any way. We refer to this Mecate as being a lead when off the horse, like I am right now, but it's important to never tie your horse off to anything with the Mecate alone. I'm going to show you a knot here so you can tie your horse up to a post and you're not actually tying your horse off to the bit. You bring your reins up to your horse's ears here. Then you take the side you're standing on and throw it all over to the other side here, so that this slobber strap is going up your horse's cheekbone like that and up out of the way. Then you pick up the reins you have on the off side so that your outside slobber strap is up running along with your inside slobber strap here. And then you gather all that into one hand and you run this loop up through this loop in here that we now have, running up towards the throat latch, but not inside of the throat latch, and then back down through itself in a little half hitch, and then you tighten that right up. You want to make sure that all of this underneath is snug and none of it's hanging down, just so it's nice and neat there. And from here we're going to go into a bowline. With the Mecate still free, we build a little loop to the outside, going to the front of your horse. We bring this down through it, up and over the Mecate, and back up through the hole. Now from right here, you can tie your horse up to a post if you had to leave and do something real quick. And if your horse were to pull any, it wouldn't be pulling at its mouth. This here is where all the pull would come from. It'd be up around your horse's neck, like that.
Just like when I bridle my horse up to go for a ride in Western gear, I'm going to make sure that I don't have my lines tangled or twisted. I'll put my bridle over my arm, my lead rope over my arm, take my halter off, make sure to get her attention and bring her head to me, drop the halter off the end of her nose. Now remember what I said before. If she needs to leave, I'm probably not going to be able to stop her. But the chances are, before I'm going to put my bridle on my horse, that I've got her broke enough to where if she did get upset or startled, I could redirect her with this and not have to lose her. Just like with my Western bridle, I'm going to hold my bridle in this way and bring the bridge of her nose to me. When she turns loose, I'll change hands and go under here. I'm going to wait for her to open her mouth. I'm not going to follow the head up. She did open her mouth, but I'm not going to chase her head with the bit. Wait for her to open her mouth, and as she lowers her head, she's finding her way with it. She'll lower her head, and I'll put one ear forward, the other ear forward, pull the brow band up. When I adjust a snaffle bit in a horse's mouth, I make sure that the bit is low enough that there is not a forced wrinkle in the side of her mouth. Right here you can see that there is a wrinkle, and it's a wrinkle that she has actually put there by pulling that bit back up to a place where she's comfortable holding it. I'm going to open her mouth, and you can see that she'll let go of this bit and drop it down. You can see right there the release of that bit, and her mouth is open above it, and in a moment she will work her mouth and put it back up to a point where she has it kind of drawn up into the corner of her mouth where she's comfortable holding it. The reason for this is that you don't want to have a baseline pressure in the horse's mouth that would, under other circumstances, be enough to back the horse up. I've modified this English bridle by removing the noseband cavesson. I like the look of a horse with an open face, and I don't generally like to use equipment that I don't have a need for. The cavesson, by design, was made to hold a martingale, which is a piece of equipment that runs down to the girth, has a loop around the neck to hold the horse's head down and in. We don't want to get involved with something like that on horses that already know how to put their head down and in. The idea of tying her head down and in this position with a cavesson would probably be as unpleasing to her as it is to me. The other modification that I like to make to English bridle, in addition to removing the cavesson, is to add a leather curb strap, so that if you have to take the head from side to side in a situation that is sudden, or if you get into a bind and the horse's mouth comes open, you don't want to have that bit travel through it. If I were to take her to the left and her mouth were to come open, I wouldn't want this side of the bit to come through. So the function there of the leather strap would be to prevent that. All in all, it makes a really nice piece of equipment, and whether you ride English or Western, you need to be comfortable with your gear. No matter how small your pony is, you still have to keep track of him. Cookie's working with Taj pretty well right here. He's not walking away and he's not slinging his head. He's not interested in putting his own bridle on, however, so Lottie's going to help Taj a little bit. Problems with bridling are very common, and in most cases, if you practice with patience, waiting for them to lower the head and open the mouth, things will go a lot more smoothly. You cannot get the success you're looking for by following the head up with the bit or wrestling with the head. What I like to do is just let him open it and then take your hand away. Let him open his mouth, take your hand away. You can bring your hand out here, open it and drop it, open it and drop it. And then when you're ready to put the bit in, he looks for it like that, so that it's not a fight.
Let's do this. You get the nose in the bridle like this, and you hold it and just wait till she's a little relaxed. She backs up or moves, you just back up with her. And what you do is you put your thumb in here just like this. Just in this little slot of her mouth. And then when she opens her mouth, you don't let it knock on her teeth. You just put it in gently and pull up. You put in one ear. Then you go to the other side, and you put in the other ear, and you be careful for her eyes.
Getting on a 17-hand horse bareback is a pretty tough order. It's hard to find good help these days, and Sarah's lucky to have Robin there to give her a hand. The key to having this whole thing work out is having a horse that's patient enough to wait until you can swing your leg over. When you have a horse that won't stand still, be sure to have someone hold him at his head so the helper doesn't have to do both jobs. When you're boosting someone up, remember to grab their leg just below the left knee. This is a picture of Gunner being patient while Birch learns how to get on by himself. He hasn't figured out yet how to get his hands in the right position so that he can keep his left foot still in the stirrup. Gunner's patience had a limit with Birch's acrobatics. He eventually started walking off every time Birch put his foot in the stirrup. So with the help of a holder, Birch was able finally to polish up his technique. Well, here's Taj. She was so used to getting off a pony, she didn't really know where the ground was going to be, so she didn't really dare let go. Taj is demonstrating an alternative to getting on with a helper. If you try this, be sure the horse is small enough and you have someone holding his head. And this is my dog Dipper. When he's not rounding Fushi and the other horses up, he likes to take a ride sometimes. Sometimes even with a helper, things don't work out so well, so you just have to keep trying. Birch has improved considerably since he started getting on by himself. But he still biffs it once in a while. It's easier for him when he has his hand in the right place. Make sure that before you put your foot in the stirrup, every time, that you check the girth or the cinch and make sure it's tight enough to hold your weight on the side of the horse as you're getting up. Tighten the girth gradually. And before you put your weight in the stirrup, check it once more. Remember when you're checking your girth to run your hand from front to back, going with the grain of the hair, so it's not uncomfortable for your horse. We're going to show you a mistake that's pretty easy to make when you're boosting a friend up on a horse. You want to keep both hands together at the front of the saddle One hand on the withers, one hand on the saddle. We're going to show you the wrong way because it's often done. It's a dangerous thing to do, and you'll recognize it and you'll see what's wrong with it as we show you. I'm going to ask Angela to turn around and get ready to get on her horse, and I'll give her a boost, lifting from right here. She's going to keep her hips straight so she doesn't fold up when I give her a hand up. Wrong way first now, okay? 1, 2, 3. Right here, she's in a spot where she has to move her hand in order to swing her leg over. Okay, let's try again. 1, 2, 3. Good girl. An important thing to remember when mounting is that you don't want to put your toe in the horse's gut and move him off. You don't want to be in a position where you can get run over if he moves forward. So she's going to stand like she is here, ahead of the shoulder. She's going to draw the stirrup toward her, and she can use her left hand to bear a lot of her own weight as she pulls herself up. Go ahead, hon. If that's okay, keep trying. Just try again. Push your put your weight down. You're not going to try to rip his mane out. Push down hard, and you need to jump hard off that leg. Okay. Keep going. Just keep trying. Keep it till you get it, and then get right up alongside him. Go ahead, jump hard. Come on. When a child is learning to get on by herself, it's helpful if you can give her an added boost with a belt loop just at the moment when it could go either way.
Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3.
There you go. Good job.
Oh.
The purpose of staying halfway up on your horse like this is so, in a situation like this where the horse is distracted by something over to his right, she's in a position to get up or down. She hasn't committed to get on that horse until the feet are still. From this position here, Angela can kick her left foot out of the stirrup and just get down on the ground without having to commit herself to a horse that's moving. Angela is demonstrating the wrong way to get off. Both of her hands should be toward the front of the saddle, so she doesn't have to put so much of her weight in her left foot. It's not hard to see what kind of trouble Angela would be in if Gunner trotted off. When you're getting off your horse, you must get your left foot free of your stirrup before your right foot hits the ground. Problems with dismounting will be made more difficult with the kind of footwear that we're showing you here. Any type of tread sole or rubber sole is going to be more difficult to release from a stirrup than a hard-soled boot or shoe with a heel. For this reason especially, you need to kick both feet free, as Angela is showing you how to do here, before you jump down from the saddle.
Now I'm going to show you how to mount up on your horse. What I'll do with my Mecate here, keep it out of my way, slip it up through my belt. Now, if you don't feel comfortable having this Mecate up through your belt, I'll show you what else you can do with it. You can tie it up on your horn by placing a little loop in your Mecate like this. You place that loop over your horn, and you make another loop. Place it over your horn. Snug that up, and that Mecate's away from you. For some, you might feel safer. I'll take my reins down from the horn and situate them with a coil here so that as I get on, if my horse walks off, I can stop her feet. I'll have my left hand up here on the mane, put my left leg in the stirrup, my right hand will come up by the horn, and I'll push off with my right leg. Once I'm up here, I'll just go about halfway. Maybe on a young horse, you might pet your horse's offside here, maybe reach down for the stirrup, move the stirrup around so that your horse can get used to that kind of stuff. While I'm up here, I'm up in my hands, you see. so that I'm not taking my horse's spine off to one side. If my horse needed to walk off, or if she jumped to the side, I could get down or get on her to get with her and slow the feet down, depending on what was the wiser decision. When I swing my leg over, I be careful not to hit my horse in the rump with my foot. And as I sit in the saddle, I catch my weight in my legs, sit down on the seat nice and easy. When getting off, I'll take the tail end of the Mecate out from underneath my belt and over the horn, and it goes in the crook of my elbow, of my left hand. I gather up my lines so that if she walks off, I'll be able to control her feet, stop her feet. And when I'm ready to get up, I'll stand up into the saddle, get some weight into my arms, bring my leg over without hitting her in the rump, and again, I'm situated in the center of my horse so I'm not taking her spine off to one side. And I have some options here. I can take my foot out, come off and away, or I can stand up in my saddle, keep my weight in the center of my horse, and have my foot slide out of that stirrup before my feet hit the ground. What I'm going to demonstrate now is setting your horse up so that maybe someday he can pick you up from up top, from on the fence here. It's a lot for some horses to be able to accept you up here. So what you would want to do is be able to get to the point where you can pat your horse, let him know you're up here. She's thinking about what I'm asking. What I am asking is for her to get a little bit closer to this rail, maybe step up, maybe walk forward a step or two so that I'm closer to that saddle. The groundwork you did before will really pay off now. All of the sending and stepping your horse's hind end away from you, all of that's really going to pay off here. Right now I'm closer. I'll reward that, give her a little pat on the neck, and I'll ask a little more now. There we go. Right from here, I can put some weight into the saddle. I can be halfway up, and when I'm ready, swing the leg up and over, and I'm in the saddle. This would be handy for anyone who can't reach the stirrup, or maybe a tall horse, or someone who maybe has a physical disability and isn't able to reach the stirrup. And also, when working with young horses, it gets them used to having things up above them, and it also allows you to be able to get your horse ready for a time when maybe someone might hand you a jacket over a fence rail, or from the fence rail you could work on shaking a loop out with your rope and getting ready to throw a rope off of your horse. Anyway, you can get a lot done from the rail, and it's a valuable thing to have.
This is a safety checklist for when getting on from the rail. Don't get on while your horse's feet are moving. Don't bump your horse with your foot or knee while getting on. Gather up your reins so you can control your horse if he walks off.
Right hand.
There you go. Now just put your foot in there. Do your best. Go ahead, darling. Look up. Come on. That's it. Keep going. Atta girl.
Okay. You notice it took Taj kind of a long stirrup to get up on this big horse, but that's all right. Taj is a small person. Taj, if you would put your leg up, I'm gonna show you what a short stirrup is and what a long stirrup is. But before, I want to tell you why she has her leg up here. A lot of times if you have your leg back by your horse's flank, it can trouble your horse and cause him to walk off. Here, he can see your foot, and it's not back there by his hind end. Now this is a long stirrup, naturally, but okay, Taj. The stirrup at this length is too long since Taj has no real bend in her leg. She has no way of keeping hold of that stirrup and at the same time keeping her leg underneath her. You can see that stirrup slips right out as her leg goes in place where it should be. Here's an example of a stirrup that's too short. If you put your foot there, thank you. Now, watch Taz as she stands in the saddle. She has too much clearance in between her and the horse. This would not be handy for you if you were on a bucking horse or a horse, or maybe you're loping off through some woods and you had your horse dodging and jumping logs. You don't have enough leg underneath you in a situation like this. So if Taj, if you would please take your foot out, place it forward. I'm guessing about 3 holes down is where Taj needs the stirrup. It's always important to run this buckle all the way up the saddle and back down through the keeper here, so that's out of your way. A good rule to follow is that this stirrup should fall in between your heel and inside ankle bone. That should, most of the times, allow the rider to have a comfortable stirrup setting. And it's important that you don't have too much of your foot up into this stirrup. If you do, you could fall off and end up having your foot come through and you can get hung up in it. This heel here tries to prevent that from happening on the boot. So a safety tip would be to ride with boots with heels. Now, the extra part of the stirrup should go to the outside, like that. That way, you're not unnecessarily banging your horse in the sides. Now, Taj has her stirrups to a point where they're not too long, not too short, and she's ready to go for a ride, both being comfortable and safe. We have a brass Monel stirrup here, just like any other stirrup that serves the same purpose. And in between the stirrup and your saddle seat, you have what's called a fender. Underneath the fender, you have this clip, and this is used to shorten and lengthen your stirrup length. You can see how that slides up, and this piece can come out of those holes, and you can raise it up or down those holes you have there.
In your mounted work, before you get your reins, you're going to want to understand how to take care of yourself in the saddle. You sit with your legs nice and relaxed. You want your heel to fall under your hip from the position of your legs hanging. Lift your toe toward your knee. It will create the same effect in the appearance of putting the heel down, but instead it tightens the muscles on the top and the front of the shin, and it leaves the knee joint open so that you can move your leg intentionally ahead of the girth, at the girth, and slightly behind the girth to help your horse understand what direction you'd like him to turn his body. It takes practice and time to get body alignment so that it comes naturally. As you ride, go ahead and practice at the walk, standing and dropping your weight back down on the horse's back. Now this standing I'm talking about is not so much putting weight in the stirrup, although some weight will come in the stirrup. I'm talking also about transferring your weight forward rolling your thigh forward. Come back down when you sit in the back of your leg, not to flop down just underneath your bottom on the horse's back. That will tend to make your feet go forward and throw your upper body back. It's not about standing in your stirrup and doing this. This is not what we're talking about. That's kind of standing on your toes. And when people do that when they're riding along, the leg starts to swing like this, and your upper body starts to shift back and forth in response to that wobbly foot and stirrup, and inevitably you catch your balance by pulling on the horse's mouth to stabilize yourself. The stability that you really need comes from being able to ride and carry your weight in your leg and put enough weight in your stirrup to hold it still and still keep your knee joint open, so that you, when you need the forehand to take a signal from your leg, or the rib cage to take a signal from your leg, or the hindquarters to take a signal from your leg, your knee joint will be open and fluid enough for you to do this on purpose at any gait, whether you're posting or whether you're loping in circles or loping in turns through the sagebrush or wherever you may be. But what you're going to need to do is understand that if you can post with your heel underneath you, you can also post with your heel behind you, your heel underneath you again in the middle, or perhaps you'll need to move your leg forward. But in either case, you'll always know where to come back to. If your legs are aligned underneath you, you'll be able to turn your horse by turning your torso. That turns your shoulders, your hips, your legs underneath you. As I turn to the right, she shifts her head to the right. As I look back to the left, she looks back to the left. The most important part of keeping your balance is to be looking where you're going. I'm going to call it following a line of sight. As I look out ahead of me where I'm going, you notice that my back is straight, my heels are lined up under my hips, and I'm ready to ask the horse to move forward. Now, if I were not looking where I was going, if I were instead looking at my hands or down at my horse's mouth, you can see how this forward focus pulls my weight forward. I'm already tipping out of the saddle here. My heel is coming back, my toe is drifted back behind my knee to a point where I'm really looking down. I'm looking down as if I've lost something, as if I don't really know where I'm going. That's where I want to go, that's where I want to sit. And when I raise my head up and look where I'm going, my body settles in the saddle in alignment so that I'm ready to ask that horse to engage from behind and move out forward between my legs and straight on through my reins. It's helpful if you know how to ride whatever saddle is in front of you, because if going somewhere on your horse is the objective, it's nice not to be held up on account of your equipment. The biggest difference you'll notice is that there's no horn, there's no laces to tie your gear on with, there's no rear cinch, no big stirrup, no fender. You wouldn't be able to rope a cow too well with this. On the other hand, you wouldn't be able to jump a series of fences too comfortably in a Western saddle. So there are trade-offs in each one, but the main thing is the same. You want to keep your balance, you want to be able to communicate with your horse no matter what saddle you're in. It's more difficult in an English saddle to keep your legs still when you have weight in your stirrup, because there is no big wide fender. There is simply a strap here that connects up under that flap. And so your range of motion with your English stirrup could be from here all the way up to here, depending how good your balance was, depending how deep your seat was. So there's quite a bit more instability and insecurity for the rider when you're first beginning. You do want to be able to use your stirrups to stand in. You do want to be able to rise up over your heel with your hip in alignment, drop your stirrup without lifting your knee up. You want to be able to identify that place where your stirrup is, drop it, find it, drop it, find it. You'll see that this particular stirrup is equipped with a safety release. This is called a peacock stirrup. They're available at most tack stores. If you fall, the rubber band will break free when your weight hits it, and you'll be dumped out on the ground instead of getting dragged by your horse. In this video, you'll see another type of English safety stirrup that is shaped in a way to release your foot if you fall. You learn how to have light hands on the reins by developing light hands on the halter rope. You want to ride with a float in your rein, and so you learn how that feels by doing your groundwork with a float in your halter line. Taj and Alder are working together on developing light hands. Taj is supporting and directing Callie with her halter rope, while Alder supports the mare with his legs. They run into problems occasionally when they can't figure out whose left is whose. When you're working together, like Alder and Taj are, you need to get it straight beforehand who's left and who's right you're talking about before you can ask the horse to try to figure it out. The good thing about working with a horse like Callie is that she's spent a number of years with children who are at this stage in their learning process. Before beginning riders try this exercise, they should be sure that the horse they're using has had many successful years working with children and adult beginning riders in these exercises and is not going to get them into trouble for their mistakes. Alder is trying to learn how to bring up the life in his horse. Bringing up the life is not wiggling in the saddle, and it's not kicking the horse either. It's something that is difficult to understand and will take a lot of practice. Callie knows the difference between a rider and a passenger. You can see when I stop leading, Alder doesn't have enough life brought up in her to keep her moving. To help him understand a little better, I'll bring up the life by directing and supporting her with my halter rope, and that way he can get his body in time with her feet a little better and see what bringing up the life actually feels like. I ask her to move to a trot on the halter rope so that he can bring her down to the walk by quieting his body on her back and not actually becoming a passenger, but instead bringing the life back down.
We're going to be practicing on turns by moving the hind end over and rocking the weight back and bringing the front end across and changing directions.
Nice squeeze and release when she travels. Now keep the life in your body. There you go. Look up to your left. Now, when we get around here, let's step her over behind. Alder steps Callie's hindquarters over by touching her behind the girth with his left calf. At this point, his right leg is open, right at the girth. And bring the front end over. There you go. Now, you don't need to bring your leg quite so far back next time. Okay, step her over behind with your right leg back. Okay, there. Now rock your weight back. Bring the front end across. Alder steps Callie's forehand across to the right by opening his right leg to let her through and shifting his left leg forward and touching her with his calf ahead of the girth. Good boy. Oh, you stopped riding again. Let's go. Okay, step her hindquarters over. Rock the weight back. Front end through. There you go. That was better, and you did keep riding. But there's a problem here. You see, when you go the other way, she's leaving the horse that she wants to be with. Right now, she's going toward the horse that she wants to be with. Step her hindquarters over again. Rock the weight back and bring the front end across. And why does she stop?
I'm not keeping my life up. The life up.
Say it a little louder.
I'm not keeping the life up in her, so she stops riding. And
true enough. But she's also got a friend back there, so it's hard for her to walk away from that horse.
Okay.
Notice how much life she has when she's coming around in the other direction. She's heading toward that horse that Will is on. Right now she's leaving the horse, so it's easier for her to stop and it's going to require more from you. All right, now next time around, I want you to put a little more effort into riding her away from Will. Okay?
So, you want me to
you bring a little more life up as you go away from Will.
Okay.
And a little less life from you is required when you're going to the right, because Will's horse is drawing that mare toward her. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Okay, why don't you give your mare a little pat, rub her on the neck, check in with her. There you go, not bad. All right, now walk her out with life. Wait a minute, you don't need to jiggle, you just need to bring your life up. Okay, that's not bad. All right, let's go ahead and trot her out now. Bring some life up. If you watch Callie's feet closely, you can see that her left front and right hind leg travel together, and her right front and her left hind travel together. This creates a very bouncy rhythm. For the beginning rider, the trot is a difficult gait. It's easier to use the reins for balance when you're learning how to post than riding without reins like Alder is. To post correctly, you want to get in time with the rhythm of the horse's feet. This takes a lot of practice. But if you can learn to post by using your legs and good posture for balance, instead of pulling on the horse's mouth, you'll be a much better rider and your horse will be a lot happier. Hands down, Alder. Keep going, Taji. You're doing great. Hands down, Alder, in front, just like you had your reins. Just pretend you had your reins. Back your foot out of that stirrup.
Whoa. Stop. Stop. I gotta do something with my stirrups. Okay. Yo, Taji. Stop.
Taji, stop.
With my stirrups.
Stop. 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 Taj, he told you to stop way back there. Okay, look how far. Now, if he'd been falling off, you would have had a big problem. Stop means stop right now, and you know that because when you're up there and you say stop, you want it immediately. You hear me? You don't keep running when someone tells you to stop. That's not going to help them get their confidence up. Angela's going to adjust her stirrups to the proper length by raising it a couple of notches. Ideally, and this will change somewhat from rider to horse and depending on the saddle you're in, but ideally you're going to want the bottom of your stirrup to come right between your heel and the inside ankle bone for a proper adjustment. That will enable you to have a slight bend in your knee while you're riding and still enable you to keep your heel lined up with your hip so that you have balance in all the gaits without being launched out of the saddle at a trot or at a sudden stop or when the horse moves into a lope. Okay, so we'll ride out, Angela. Bring the life up in your horse. And let's move out in a circle to the left here. Okay? Angela's going to show you how to keep lined up with her leg underneath herself at the walk. Bring the life up. Atta girl. Go ahead and drop your left stirrup and keep your leg position. Drop both stirrups and keep your leg position. Let your leg go longer. You can see here that Angela's going to maintain a leg position on her horse as if she had her stirrups. You want to be able to find your stirrup with your foot without looking down as your horse is moving, because in the course of learning how to ride well, you're going to lose your stirrups from time to time. You need to know where they are by feel so that at speed or over difficult terrain, you're not thrown off balance by searching for them with your eye. Move him into a trot and go. Good girl. Stay in the middle of them, honey. Go ahead and drop both stirrups. Keep going. You can see that Angela's been able to maintain her leg position Keep trotting, honey. Good girl. And pick your stirrups up. Keep going. Drop them again. Good girl. Keep going. Pick them up again. Good girl. Okay, drop them again. Okay, pick your outside stirrup up now. Now your inside stirrup. Good girl. Taj is going to ride Callie up this little incline here, and it's a steep, rocky place with uneven terrain. She's going to show you how to use her body, legs, her balance, and her line of sight to balance on the mare without having to have the reins for support. I'm going to guide the mare with this line. I'm going to direct her up, and Taj is going to ride the mare up the top with her weight off the mare's back and her eyes looking up where she's going. And this will give you a good idea of the kind of balance a child can develop on a horse without having to hang in that mouth. And then her riding will be a little more complimentary to the horse later on. All right, Taji, look where you're going, darling. Get your weight off her back, and you're just going to ask her to walk up the hill. Let her take her time. Now ride her up in there. Atta girl. Look left. Step her over behind. Step her hindquarters away. And give her a pat. There you go. Now let's ask her to come down again. Go ahead and ride her forward. We're going to ride her down here. Okay, go ahead and ride her down, and you sit back and look where you're going. When you're ready, ask her to take a step. That's a girl. Okay, good girl. And look to your left. You're going to come up that hill now. Hang on. That a girl. Good for you, Taj. Pat your mare. Good job, Taji.
I would like to take this time to thank everyone who's helped me get to this point in my horsemanship, especially my friend Leslie Desmond, Tim Thomas, and Buck Branneman. I would also like to thank the woman who has let me borrow this horse from her, Dawn Peru, for allowing me to work with such a wonderful horse who's taught me so much. Also, I'd like to thank my mom and dad for making it possible, allowing me to have the chance to work with Leslie and her horses.
This is a horse that loves apples. This is a horse that I feed apples and carrots a lot, but she respects my space. Here's an apple, there's her face. I've got her attention and I've got her interest, but I've got her respect. This apple being near her mouth, she's interested, but she's not going to come and take it out of my hand, bite my fingers or bite anyone else's fingers. Maybe I can get her to follow that and think about it, and maybe I could teach her how to fetch it. Come on, Sal. Come here, baby. Come on, Sal. Come on, Sal. Come here. Pumpkin, you come here, hon. Come here, babe. Come here, babe.